Hi friends, welcome back to Techie Trainers. My name is Sivakumar Reddy. As part of Docker tutorial, in our previous video, we discussed about the installation of Docker. Just a small recap. So we have spin up an instance in AWS, which is Amazon Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and then we connected to that instance using Git Bash, and we installed Docker using the document provided by AWS, and then we added the EC2 user to the Docker group, log out and log back again. Then you are able to run the Docker commands. Okay, so I logged into the connected to the instance. This time I'm using Super Putty. You can also use it. So Docker command is installed. Enter Docker is installed. Okay. So today we will discuss about Docker commands, which are very useful. So I have prepared the notes. We can follow one by one. The first command is how to check the running Docker containers. The command is Docker yes. So it will give you the running command, running containers. Okay. So I have already some containers running. Let me remove this. Okay, so Docker PS will give us the running containers. There are no containers running now. We can start creating the containers. And Docker PS-A will give you all the containers which are running or stopped, exited, everything. So you will get to know once we start creating the containers. After that, how to pull the image. For example, I want to pull Docker pull Alma Linux, which is community version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8. So it is pulling the image. Okay, it has pulled successfully. So how it will pull the image, I will explain as part of Docker architecture. If you want to check the images in your system, Docker images. Just now we pulled Alma Linux, which is of 8 version. It means I am giving the version 8. If you don't give any version, it will pull the latest. And this is the image ID created. So it was created originally 2 weeks back, and the memory is 209 MB. So you see the entire OS memory is 209 MB only. So you have very lightweight OS. Usually the OS memory is around GBs, but here we are getting very lightweight. Even you see there is a image called Alpine. You will surprise after seeing the memory. So let us pull and then check. So if you don't give any version, it will pull the latest version. Docker images. So you see the memory of the entire OS Alpine, which is of Linux distribution, it is 5.6 MB equal to 1 MP3 song. So with this, you can understand how lightweight it is running the containers instead of VMs. Okay. So Docker pull, it will pull the image. Docker images, it will show you the images available in your system. And if you want to know the information about the image you pulled, you can just give Docker inspect and then your image ID. Now you will get the full information of your image. Okay, you can see here everything. What is the size, architecture, all the things. The Docker inspect is a very useful command. We will be frequently using it. All these commands will be frequently using. So till now we pull the images, but how to create the container out of the image? The command is Docker create, and then image ID. Now you see Docker. So okay, image is container is created but not started. To start, you have to run docker start. Now it got created. Now you check the Docker containers running. Nothing is running because the container you whatever you have started, it ran and exited. There is nothing you have given to the container to run continuously. Now if you check docker ps-a, so this container ran, which one? This container ran bc3b. Oh sorry, which container ran? Yeah, bc3b. bc3b ran and it exited because there is nothing to run in the container. Now I will show you how to run it continuously. So instead of running all these three commands, docker pull the image, docker create the container out of the image, docker start the container, there is single command called docker run, which is equal to pull, create and start. So for example, I want to run Nginx. Now you see Nginx, docker run Nginx. So in background, it will pull it and then it will create the container out of it and it will start the container. Now you see I'm not able to come out of it because the container is running continuously. It attached to the screen. So now if I enter Control C, it will be exit. If I see docker ps-a, all the containers it ran, it exited 20 seconds ago. So by default, the container attaches to your current session. If you want to detach it, you can run docker run -d nginx. So it is detached. It means it is running in background. Now if you see docker ps, container is running up and running from last 8 seconds. So this is the nginx container. Okay. So -d is detached mode. Now I want to access what is inside nginx. So to explain, so this is for example hardware, and on top of it we know we have OS and we have docker engine installed. Now a container is getting created, for example nginx. Now I want to access the nginx server. So generally nginx, if you run, right, if you access with port number 80, you can see the content. Now this container is running. So what we said is you have to, the first call comes to the OS, then OS forwards the, or docker engine forwards the request to the nginx. So in our last class we discussed you need to map the host port to the container port. Now if you access like curl http your IP address and host port, what will happen is your docker engine redirects that request to the container port. So in that case, how to access it outside of the, how to access your nginx container? First I will remove this container. now docker run in the background -p port number of your host 8080, and Nginx by default runs on port number 80. So I am mapping the host port 8080 to the container port 80 and then running Nginx. Now if you see, the container is running, port number 80 is attached to the container port 80. Now if you access this in your browser, the IP address public IP and port number 8080, now you can see Nginx is running. Now if you deploy something into the Nginx server, you can access the website across the internet. Okay, but if you don't want to give any port, so what you have to give is -p. Then your Docker engine automatically assigns a random port. To see that the random port, you need to run this command docker ps. So that random port is 49153. If you access again 49153, you will get again Nginx. So it means there are two Nginx instances running. One is port number 8080, one is 49153. So like this, you can run any number of any number of containers and host project A here and then project B here. So like this, in a single virtual machine or single hardware, you can run any number of projects based on your capacity of the server. Okay, so we will see in coming videos how to install a website within the Nginx server with less memory. Okay, so now the container is running. How you will enter inside the container? The command is docker. Exec means execute, IT means interactive, and then your container ID, and then just give the bash. So now you see the containers are running. How can I enter inside the container? Now we are inside this server. Now I want to log into inside the container. For that, docker exec execute interactive. It means inside the container. Give the container ID and then bash. Now you see you are inside the container. So this is inside the container. Your container host name is like this. pwd, you are in root folder. Your container have these files. Okay, to come out of it, press Ctrl T. Now you are inside the host. Okay, and without login, if you want to run any command, so earlier command is bash, it will take you inside the container. Now without logging, if you want to run any commands, docker exec container ID and then the command. I want to know the present working directory of the container and I want to know the files inside it. So you can give any command here. Okay, so it will not take you inside the container, it will just execute the command inside the container and take you out of it. So now how to remove the container? Docker ps. So this is running docker rm and then container ID. So you cannot remove it because it is running. So you have to force -f. Okay, docker ps-a will give you all the containers running as well as exited. Now if you want to remove all the containers at a time, you need to pass the container ID, right? Now if you give docker ps-a-q, it will give you the container IDs. You need to pass these IDs to the docker rm command like this. So this command will give you the output of container IDs, and this will be supplied to the docker rm command. Now all the containers will be removed. Okay. Now how you remove the images? Docker rmi image and then image ID. Now you see there is no Nginx image. And now, so these are the Docker commands mainly we use. After this, we can discuss Docker architecture and we can go into Docker file. How can we build our own images and how can we deploy the applications inside our Docker containers? All those things we can discuss. So before that, you need to practice all these commands. So few more things are there. Environment variables. What are environment variables? So now I am running docker run -d nginx. Docker. Yes, I am running a command docker exec and then container ID and env command to tell us what are the environment variables available inside the container. So these are the environment variables. If you want to pass extra variables, how can you pass is, first let me remove this container. With -e variable, you can pass key value pairs. For example, URL or project equal to hello world. Now you run the environment variables. You can see project equal to hello world. So you can access these values inside the container. To give you more, let us run one MySQL database. It is pulling. It is pulling from Docker Hub. We can discuss clearly later. Now let us see Docker PS. It is not running. Run docker ps-a. It is exited. To check why it is exited, you need to check the logs. Docker logs container ID. And you see database is uninitialized and password options is not specified. You need to specify one of the followings. So you need to specify this variable as part of environment variable while running the container. For example, now if I run docker run -d and then passing the environment variable admin123. So this is the password it required while starting the database instance and MySQL. Without this variable, your MySQL instance or MySQL container will not start. So this is where your environment variable will be helpful for us. Now if you see Docker PS, your container is up and running. Okay. And then, yeah, so like this. We can discuss Docker volumes little bit. So I'll discuss Docker volumes little bit now. In upcoming classes, I will discuss in depth about Docker volumes. Okay. So now let me log in inside the MySQL. Okay. So now I logged in inside the MySQL container, and then I'm inside the MySQL database. So here, let us see the databases. Create database Docker. Okay, so now the database is created. I'm coming out of the container, Control D again. So now I'm inside the host. So you have created a database inside MySQL. Now I am removing it. And then I'll create again. Now log in again. Now check the database is exists that we created earlier. The Docker database is not exist because whenever you remove the container, automatically it will delete the data you created inside the container. Control D, one more Control D. So to persist the data, you need to attach the volume to the container. Okay. So now we'll see how to attach. Let me remove again. Okay, I'm just creating my SQL data folder here, and you need to provide explicitly the volume to the container with -b slash one second, what's the directory home is to use it. Okay, so now, and you can see we created the data, I mean the folder. So now you will pass -b slash home slash ec2 user slash mysql data, and then you map to the container where lib mysql. So by default, mysql will mount the data to in this folder. Okay, so that's why I just created one folder in my host machine and then mapping that to the container. Now if you go inside it, your container saved all its data into this folder. Okay, now if I create the data inside this docker exec -it mysql So the database Docker is created. Come out of it, Control D, Control D. Now I will remove it. Docker remove -f. Now if you remove the container, it will not delete the data because you explicitly mentioned the data inside this folder, MySQL data. Okay. Now if you attach this data to one more container again, you will get the data back. So that is how you will persist the data with Docker volumes. So now you can see your data is persisted. So it was lengthy. Let me open write again. By default, Docker removes the data when you remove the container. But can create volume or any folder in the host machine and map it to Docker container using -b. Now if you remove the container, data will not be removed. You can attach it to another container again. Okay, so this is the whole meaning of how we attach the volume to the Docker container. Okay, so to come out of the MySQL database, Control D, again Control D. Now let me remove all the containers. -e-q. Docker run -d nginx. So now let us see. Oh, sorry, image is wrong. Docker yes, Docker run -d nginx. Now if you see the name, it is creating some random name. It is a combination of two dictionary words. If you want to give a meaningful name, Docker run -name nginx hello world. So like this you can provide the name to the containers. Now you can see whatever the name we give here, it will come up here so that you can easily recognize. Okay, so these are the maximum Docker commands we use even in our real-time projects. Okay, so we can discuss more about Docker volumes and Docker networking, all these things in the upcoming sessions. Now if I discuss, you may not understand. So once we go in deep sessions, I can explain those things to you. So with this, I can stop the Docker commands. In our next video, we can discuss about Docker architecture, and after that we can start creating Docker files and then building Docker images, all those things. Okay. See you. Have a nice day.